Welcome to the Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
11:01 on a Tuesday morning. What's going on, everybody? Welcome inside the Lock Shop, presented to you by our great partners here at Edmonton Sports Talk. Coolbet. If you've not yet signed up for an account at Coolbet, look, if you're on the Lock Shop right now, if you're watching the Lock Shop or you're listening to the Lock Shop, odds are you probably already have a Coolbet account. If you don't, go to coolbet.com and sign up for an account. Use the code LOCKSHOP when you do, and you will get a 100% deposit bonus on your initial deposit up to 200 smackaroos. You can text us anytime, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. I have to say, it was a really entertaining hangout today. I was sitting around listening to a lot of it. I thought the AM Nasty in the house, Road Dog Trev, very good job sliding into that spot. Turns out you can put people on the air who just maybe have never done it, but they still are excellent discussing things, and that happened. Great having Hernan Salas in the house as well. Hernan's always a beauty. So that was a fun discussion. I mean, I don't know if we need to get into the wave. I know Huss always wants to talk about that. We'll probably avoid that bad boy on the Lock Shop. I will say this: EST parlay. EST parlay. Hits. That was a nice one. Plus 550. Good job, Lock Shoppers. Hopefully you were riding with us on that one, Connor. So we hit. Yesterday was an interesting day for that Oilers game. Very interesting day. And Mark, you're right. I see you, Mark. I see in the nasty chat there. We do got a huge slate tonight. We'll get into that when Huss joins us. Lots of other things. We'll set up the rest of the week a little bit. P. Greg is going to pop by 1 point. Might catch up with Jake at some point as well from Coolbet this week. We got to set up the Briar, obviously. We're going to get into that. We got our golf picks coming up, and obviously hockey all throughout the week as well. But yeah, 12-game slate in the National Hockey League. I do wonder, one thing Huss and I are going to talk about today a little bit is what are we going to get for trade deadline props? I'm kind of intrigued to get some trade deadline props. Jake, if you're watching, Pete Greggy, if you're watching, did we get some trade deadline props? What happens here? I feel like we could probably help you guys put together some trade deadline props. That would be nice. Yeah, EST parlay though, no sweater, really. You knew that top line they were going to put them together was going to work last night. As soon as Draisaitl scored, I knew McDavid was going to deliver another point for us, and we were going to be able to get that thing done last night. And that is exactly what ended up happening. Connor McDavid, though, hasn't scored 10 games in a row. Do we keep betting on that thing until it finally hits? That was the only thing I missed yesterday. Yesterday morning on the Nielsen Show, the Coolbet hotline of the day was the under 6.5 in the Oilers and Kings. Cha-ching. We hit the EST parlay as well. Cha-ching. And I actually said yesterday on the Nielsen Show when we were doing our Orange and Blue breakfast for Mobile One and Blue Water Lubricants, I said my game day prediction was Stuart Skinner was going to be one of the 3 stars. And lo and beholden, is that the saying? I've never used that saying before. And lo and beholden, I don't know what it means. I don't even know if I'm saying it right. Anyway, and lo and beholden, Stuart Skinner does end up being one of the 3 stars. So that was nice as well. 12 games on tap in the National Hockey League this evening. We'll certainly get to those full slate. I mean, we can just basically stick to that. Toronto Raptors with a nice win last night. 3 in a row for the Raps. Scotty Barnes with his 4th triple-double of the season. They pick up the dub there elsewhere around the National Hockey League last night. Interesting evening. The one thing that didn't go over well yesterday was the Lock Shop partner parlay. That one didn't hit. The Ottawa Senators get doubled up in Washington. The Sens are back at it tonight in Nashville. We had Jamie McLennan on live this morning from Nashville. So that'll be an interesting one tonight. The Nashville Predators and the Ottawa Senators. And the Boston Bruins go to overtime for what was a 7th straight game and end up losing in a shootout to the Kraken. The Islanders, who we did like last night, that was a Huss play, and they ended up winning that game in overtime. We had them on the parlay on the puck line at plus 1.5, but they ended up winning that outright in overtime. And then the Edmonton Oilers take care of business 4-2 against the Los Angeles Kings. The Da-A says, my question is different. Trevor Harris, Saskatchewan Roughriders quarterback. Yeah, we had a guy in studio today named Trevor Harris, but it was not, in fact, the Trevor Harris who's the quarterback for the Riders. But if you did not watch the Hangout today, go back and look at it and take a look at the video and see if you think that is the quarterback for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Now, Trevor Harris, who we had in today, is in my CFL Fantasy League, which is another thing entirely. Let's bring in Huss today as we got a full slate in the National Hockey League tonight. Huss, what's up, buddy? How you doing, man?
Do we ever? Oh, man. Sorry, I was a couple of minutes late. I was just finishing an interview with Andy Strickland in St. Louis. He is so good, man. He He is on top of literally everything in the league. He was asking me about what's up in Winnipeg and everything going on into this game tonight. We got the commissioner here this evening beforehand to meet with fans and whatnot. But he dropped about a 2 to 3 minute bit on the state of the Coyotes that was as good as anything I've heard on the topic in a long time. We'll have that on Winnipeg Sports Talk coming up. And yeah, we got a big game tonight. I heard you just kind of going through everything last night. Nice win for the Oilers.
Yeah.
Was keeping an eye on that one last night. And man, I don't know. The Ottawa Senators might be on the suspended list, even though they were 7-2-1 going into that game. I mean, they just could not get out of their own way. And listen, maybe it's my own fault for thinking that, okay, they had played well. They were 7-2-1 in their last 10. They'd won a bunch of games that, they weren't winning earlier in the season. But I watched that game last night.
Did you?
I mean, oh my God, it was, they were down 2-0 early. They came back, tied it up. Great. Went out to grab some food. And they just given up another 3 goals. And I went back and watched them. And I mean, somewhat of a comedy of errors. There's a lot of work to be done from Jacques Martin. I think they've seen some positive things moving forward, but it just hasn't been clicking. But like it's happened a few times with our partner parlay, we sort of get a couple of ones, and the ones that we really liked, what's often been the Boston Bruins, they don't get it done in OT.
Yeah, if anybody's going on the suspended list. Yeah, yes, I think it might be 7. Let me double check, because I know at least it was 5. I thought it was 6 yesterday of games that went to overtime. Like it's a pretty ridiculous run right now.
I'm gonna pull this up right now and get their actual. Okay, no, this is yesterday.
I know yesterday when we were previewing it, I think I said they'd gone to overtime in at least 5. I know it was 5. I'm trying to remember if it was 6. I think it was 5, and last night was 6.
Here we are. Shootout, overtime, shootout, overtime. So it is now.
Now it's 6.
Is 6 in a row and 7 of their last 8. And what's funny is of those 7 games, the Bruins 2-5.
Yeah.
That's 5 points they've left on the table. I mean, you're not going to win every single time you get to overtime or shootout, but it just goes to show you that, I mean, every single point is so important right now, especially when, teams are battling for spots, when it comes to, getting into the playoffs. I mean, it's been a little while since the Jets have been, the Kyle Connor scored overtime goals in both of their games on the weekend. The Jets overall have actually had quite a nice record in the extra frame. Although when I go through the entire season, maybe not. I mean, they have some wins in OT. But anyways, they got the 2 on the weekend, and now they got the St. Louis Blues coming in, who, the Blues were the team that lost to Nashville, and Nashville was chasing them. And this was about a week ago, coming off that 9-2 embarrassment game where we were mentioning that, okay, the plans for Vegas have changed. You're not going to the Sphere anymore. Well, Nashville's rattled off 5 wins in a row. I do wonder what that does to UC Saros' potential availability when it comes to the trade deadline. And now the Blues find themselves 4 back of Nashville for that final wild card spot. They do have 2 games in hand. And I think all those teams were happy with your Oilers last night taking care of the Kings. Because, I mean, LA still, I would say, comfortably in that first wild card, but as we've seen, if you have a bad week or two and some other teams win some games,
it's
all
quick.
Of a sudden,
it can be
things
quick.
are a lot closer than they appear.
I'm going to get into the Oilers game last night here, but Huss, what'd you go out and get for a bite to eat? I'm just, since you said it, you're like, I went out, got a bite to eat, came back, they scored. It's funny because on that game, I didn't check that game till after I put the kids to bed, and it was 6-3. I was like, wait a second, I got to refresh it. I was like, what? So that was ridiculous.
2-2 when I left, 5-3 when I got back.
What'd you have?
I ordered the world famous Mitzi's chicken fingers, which is the place.
Oh, I have heard about these Mitzi's because I get them at the Elephant and Castle, and I think they're the best chicken tendies I've ever had in my life. But people are like, you think these are good? You got to go check out Mitzi's.
Yeah, Mitzi's. Shout out to Shirley Eng, 45 years in the business. And her and her husband, it was ostensibly like a Chinese food restaurant.
Okay.
But again, like they don't have like a full Chinese menu. They've got a couple little combos, but they started making homemade chicken fingers there. And they are widely credited for basically inventing the honey dill sauce that you see everywhere.
That's my thing. I love the honey dill when I come to Manitoba. My goodness. They invented the honey dill.
Good. It is so good. Yeah. And I think they were trying to replicate some other sauce and sort of screwed up and then realized it was really good and people loved it. And now people have taken different variations of it, but by lore of the city of Winnipeg, that basically goes back to Mitzi's Chicken Fingers. And it is not too far from you. Like when you're staying at the Delta downtown, it is only 3 blocks towards Main Street.
Right, so come out the Delta door and go right?
Go right.
What?
Yeah.
It's that close?
And it is that close. Now she's been doing it for a long time. Apparently they're going to be selling it. I hope someone would take over and just use the recipes and go further. I mean, now kind of post-pandemic, they do more just takeout, but lunch from like 11:30 to 2:30, dinner from about 4 to 8, which is a little tighter hours than they used to have. But it is still, as far as I'm concerned, well worth the quick trip downtown to say hi and pick up a sack. So I did that. That made my night. The performance of the Senators did not.
At least something cheered you up. At least something cheered you up. I like you pick up a sack of the chicken tenders. I love it. That's good. You sound like Santa Claus flinging this thing over your back, buddy. The chicken tendy Santa.
Listen, I tell you what, if I got up on Christmas morning and had a hot styrofoam container of Mitzi's Chicken Fingers and Fries, it probably would be my favorite gift every year. So shout out to the gang down there. So what was the consensus on last night's win for Edmonton? Bottom line, they needed a result after a kind of a poor start to that homestand.
It is it's interesting because they didn't start the game well. Like the Kings were the better team for a decent stretch. And then the Kings had a 5-on-3 and you're thinking, "Oh man, like they're going to fully take control of this game." The Oilers killed off the 5-on-3 and then kind of got going a little bit. We talked about it going into the game last night. See you later, Trev. We talked about it going into the game last night that they were putting Draisaitl up on the McDavid and Hyman line. Ended up being a genius move for last night, at least, as Draisaitl was significantly better with Connor McDavid than he has been lately without Connor McDavid. Hyman was great. Like that top line was excellent. Bouchard with a couple of points, had a goal and assist last night, made a mistake on a goal against. But Stuart Skinner is probably the most positive thing coming out of last night's game, I thought. Like the Kings had chances. The Kings had, if they didn't have 40 shots on goal, they were just shy of 40 shots on goal. And Skinner only got beaten twice. So he was excellent yesterday. That's something that hopefully he can build on because he's not been good since the All-Star break. It was an important win for the Oil. Like they just can't open up a 5-game homestand 0-3-1. So they got it last night. As I was watching the game, we talked about it a little bit on the Nielsen show this morning. As I was watching the game, I was like, man, this would be a great series again. Again, I know it's highly unlikely with where they're at right now, unless the Golden Knights sort of stumble and they can snag the 2-3 seed or something along those lines. But with Vegas being hurt for a good chunk of the year and still managing to stay where they are, you have to think as they eventually continue to get healthy, maybe they can hang on to that spot. But I got time for another Oilers Kings series. I think the Oilers will win it, but it'd be a lot of fun along the way, buddy.
Hey, speaking of Skinner, I mean, I know that it's sort of weird in Winnipeg because we were so hot and horny for the trade deadline and everything happened, and the Jets went and got Monahan 3 weeks early.
Yeah.
I think the expectations of what Winnipeg might do are less because they've essentially already made their significant move, moving their number one pick. And listen, they've seen some results from Monahan already in the market. But what are the chances, and how much are you guys talking about potentially adding another goaltender? I mean, we know Stuart Skinner is going to be there, but are they comfortable with the rest of? I mean, Jack Campbell's down there. They got
Pickett's played well. Like Pickett's played pretty well so far when called upon. But and that's a discussion that we have here a lot. Like it all depends on who you talk to and what game it's after. You know, like after the Calgary game,
Totally.
people are like, well, you can't go into the playoffs if Skinner's your number one guy. You just can't. And then, last week, Pickard didn't play well, but they still beat Dallas. And people are like, well, you got to have a backup upgrade on Calvin Pickard. Now, we did this morning when we had Jamie McLennan on. We talked a little bit about the goaltending and what you have to do. He says that he still thinks they're probably running Skinner a little bit too much. So you either have to decide, are you comfortable with Pickard as your backup? If you are, play him a little bit more. If you're not, go out and try to find a backup that's going to come in. In a perfect world, Oilers fans would want to see them go out to Nashville, grab UC Saros and throw him between the pipes. But that's not going to happen. I mean, they got bigger fish to fry, I think, than that. So Stuart Skinner's their guy. I think in a dream scenario, in a fantasy world, Oilers fans would, like, if you got into an Oilers fan's dreams at night while they're sleeping, and you know what's in there? Marc-Andre Fleury's in there. Like, it's just like this veteran guy who could come in and back up Skinner.
That's a lot more realistic than Saros.
Exactly, of course, right? Like, Saros isn't going anywhere. Plus, that deal just simply wouldn't work because Preds wouldn't want Skinner going back the other way because they got a guy coming up. So it's a non-starter. But the Marc-Andre Fleury one, now apparently he has not wanted to come to Edmonton in the past. But if you want to come up, take a run at one more cup with the best player in the world, I mean, I don't see it being a crazy stretch of the imagination. And I do think that would be a pretty good fit. Like last year in the playoffs, Skinner struggled. Skinner was one of the reasons that they didn't get past Vegas. Aiden Hill was so much better at the other end. But Skinner got pulled a number of times in the playoffs last year. They went to Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell, in a limited sort of sample size last year in the playoffs, actually played relatively well, but they still weren't willing to go back to him. No matter how bad Skinner played, they started him every single game. If you were to bring in a guy like Marc-Andre Fleury and Skinner has a bad game, but you go back to him in a game 2, doesn't play well again, well, then you can go to Marc-Andre Fleury and run for him with a little bit, right? So I think they'd love to get, when I say a guy like that, you basically mean that guy because there's not a bunch of Marc-Andre Fleurys kicking around on other teams that you can go out and acquire.
Yeah, and you know what? Like all the history of, does Fleury want to go to Edmonton? I mean, that's more like moving your family there and all that. We're talking about 2 months here, or hopefully 3 months.
Popping up for 3 months.
Season.
Yeah.
So I don't see that as an issue at all. And with all due respect to Pickard, I think that Stuart Skinner would benefit in a huge way from having a Marc-Andre Fleury.
Just being around, yeah.
There. Even if he's getting the first start and he's going to go for, as long as it is until he struggles and they need to get somebody else in, I would think that would be a great pickup. I guess the Oilers, are in a, and I know everybody wants everyone and everyone expects, well, why wouldn't that guy want to come to play with Connor McDavid and all that? There is a cap. And, what do the Oilers have? About $150 in cap space right now after the Perry signing?
What they're doing is they are right now, because they're running a short roster, they are accruing cap space right now. And up prior to the deadline, if they leave the roster the same way it is, right prior, like on deadline day, if they have not made any other roster moves, they could add a player up to about $2.5 million on an AAV. So, I mean, you could go out and grab a guy worth $5 million on a 50% retention type of thing. So like they're pinching pennies right now, trying to save up as much cap space as possible prior to the deadline. So, they've got people want a top 6 forward. People want a bottom 6 forward. People want some sort of upgrade on defense. Some people want a backup goaltender. Like there's a lot of things that a lot of teams want. You're not going to get them. So you got to pick and choose and make sure you can fit it in financially.
Just looking out, they've got 21. They've got 2 open roster spots right now. This is the way
they're running 13 forwards and 6 defensemen, basically.
They've got their first round pick and they've got their second round pick this year that they can still move.
Yeah, they got picks. They got some prospects. They traded one last year, but they got some other prospects that they could mix in here. It'll be interesting to see because if they go out and get into the rental market, that's fine. I think in a perfect world, though, like to get a true deadline win, if they could get somebody that's also around next year, so they don't have to have this song and dance again next year and spend more assets next year, like find a player that's under contract for another year or 2 or something like that. So we'll see what happens. On that front.
funny you mentioned that. I mean, I was just talking to Strickland, and if he's available, a guy that fits that bill, not a goaltender, but is having a big season. He's on pace for 30 goals again. Is Buchnevich?
Oh man, people here in Edmonton would love to get their hands on Buchnevich.
5.8 mil this season, 5.8 mil next season. He's scored 30. He's basically been, like, if you extrapolate it to 80 games, has been on 30 goal pace for basically the last 4 seasons. He's got 22 right now in 55, I believe, or 57 games so far this season. But I mean, the cost for a guy like that for not 1 but 2 playoff runs would be significant. But man, just thinking about the way he might fit into that roster is
it'd be real nice.
That would not be good news for the rest of the Pacific and the West. I will say that.
We got a big slate tonight in the National Hockey League. 12 games on tap. Just quickly, over at CoolBet right now, if you go and check out their Twitter account, you'll find the link to this, and we'll retweet it as well. Discover the thrill of our bet builder by placing bets to win weekly rewards. Get a $10 free bet every week by making at least 4 bet builders of $5 each. Bet builder must be $5 and a minimum of plus 200 odds. And you can find more details on this little bet builder special that they've got going on over at CoolBet. If you go follow their Twitter account, you'll be able to see the feed, or you can just go to the website coolbet.com and you'll be able to find the link and go check it out. Nice little bonus game that you can get in the mix here for us. I like it.
Yeah, and you know what? There's some other things if you want. Just every now and then click on the promotions tab. I don't do this enough. I mean, for those of you footy fans, they've got a free Premier League predictor contest, which has weekly prizes. That's not really my bag, but I know there's a lot of people that are in. May as well get in on that. Heck, the soccer, and I'm a perfect person to tell you about this. The CoolBet promotions, were the reason why we met our friends in Qatar for the World Cup. I mean, there were 2 winners that got flights, 2 weeks in Qatar, all the Canada games from CoolBet Promotions. So it is a good idea to keep on right now. They've got there's a free bet promo from UFC right now. If you bet UFC, you'll get a $325 bet in the sports book. And then a big section of the NHL exclusives with the Hockey Hall as well. So good idea just occasionally when you're on the site, click on over and see what's kicking over on the promotions tab.
In the nasty chat from Steinbach, the nemesis. Hey, everyone, we talking Briar futures? What we're going to do, what do you want tomorrow? Thursday probably, Huss. Hey, Wednesday, some golf and hockey. Thursday, get into the Briar, and you think?
Yeah. I think Thursday get into the Briar. I think that is that's definitely when it has to be done. Although when I hear Steinbach the nemesis,
that's where the name comes from. The Doug Roach call, the play-by-play call, right? Because at the end he's like Steinbach, the nemesis, got him. It's just legendary. We play the hell out of that clip on our show. Tell me about what you were thinking, though. Steinbach the nemesis.
Well, I wasn't sure whether Steinbach the nemesis is actually from Steinbach.
No, I think he's from Edmonton.
Oh,
but his handle is just Stein. Tell me about Steinbach a little bit. Why is it the nemesis?
Fastest growing town in Manitoba for sure.
Come on. Yeah. Why? What's driving? Is it like?
You know what? It's a good question. I think a lot of immigrants, like, it's a Mennonite town.
Okay.
Like originally, and there's tons of like farms and things around it, but they have had it was, put it this way, like growing up, it was the dry town where we'd do a drink the town dry and take a bus from the city and go, like, there was a bar like right outside the city limits and try and just drain the whole place. But I mean, many people have come to Canada, have come there. Their industry has grown big time. They built a beautiful new rink. They are home of the MJHL champions, the Steinbach Pistons, who I believe are first place again. So yeah, no, it is I mean, that's the weird thing about Winnipeg, like, as opposed to Saskatchewan and Alberta, the population is really spread out. Here it isn't. I mean, you've got 90% of the Manitoba population within an hour of the U.S. border, and about 75% of it in Winnipeg. Brandon's always been the next biggest one, but Steinbach has been growing significantly year over year for the better part of the last 10, 15 years. And now they got a team. Now before it was a place where there's a bunch of auto dealerships, and they used to say it's worth the trip to Steinbach to come out. But,
we've got one of those around here. Cars cost less in Wetaskiwin. In Wetaskiwin. Yeah.
Isn't that where they have the dinosaur?
Well, Drumheller is the
that's
dinosaur.
Drumheller.
Yeah, Drumheller. We spent Canada Day down there last year. Drumheller. It was a lot of fun. Actually, quickly on a fun trips thing. We're going to take the kids to, I'm trying to think what time is it. Yeah, they won't be watching. They're in school. We're going to take the kids to SeaWorld and Legoland down in San Diego in April. And get this. The week we're going, the Jays are there, coincidentally, to play the Padres. So I looked at Tam. I said, well, this has to happen. Like, we have to go now. It's a sign. Like, we have to be there. So I'm going to go check out Jays Padres game when we're down there, which will be a lot of fun. That'll be cool.
Check out my man and WST regular, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton.
Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. That's right. Yeah.
Hacksaw
absolute
down
legend.
in San Diego. Longtime voice of the Chargers and Seahawks. Sports media legend. Still doing his thing. Give a plug to Hacksaw. You can check out his channel. He's been watching what we're doing. He's got so much content and takes. He's now cranking out stuff on YouTube, podcast. Of course, he's got a great segment. But, yeah, hey, just quickly before we get to these hockey games, where are you at on the Jays right now? Like, how are you feeling about the upcoming season? Like, spring training's on. Do we have that optimism about can't wait to get things going next year? Or are most Jays fans a little, I mean, hey, listen, I can't wait for baseball. We all want to watch it. It's great. It's what we do in the summer. But has the off season just been so underwhelming that you're not maybe where you'd normally be at this time of year?
Usually around this time of year, there's some sort of buzz around me for the Jays. And I'm sure once they actually start playing games, it'll crank up a notch. But I was just so let down. Like, Ohtani Jet just took so much out of me, Huss, that it's going to take a good start from this team to kind of get me back into where I would have even – well, they'll never get me to where I would have been if Ohtani actually stepped off that bloody jet instead of the guy from Dragon's Den in the all-time twist. What an offseason. So, but he was like, okay, they didn't get Ohtani. Well, maybe they'll be on this guy. Maybe they'll trade for this guy. Maybe be on this guy. And it's just been like nothing. So, yeah, it's been nothing against Justin Turner, but like it's been a disappointing offseason. I hope, the guys that are supposed to lead the offense like Vladdy can step up and do it. But yeah, the buzz is fair question. The buzz just isn't there for me right now with the Jays.
While we're at it, I'm just kind of where are we at here with the futures here? The Dodgers are plus 260 to win the World Series.
Plus 260. When was the last time we saw a favorite in any league at that type of number? Like Golden State Warriors in like 17 when KD joined? Like, man,
that's probably it. And
that's the first thing that came to my mind. Yeah, I don't think it would have been that low. I don't think it would have been that low even. Probably more in like the 350 range.
Like, it's funny, and maybe this is Canada, but Dodgers plus 260, Braves plus 550, Astros plus 850, Yankees 11-1, Rangers 15-1. And then the Phillies, Orioles, and Blue Jays at 20-1. Like, the Jays are still amongst the top 10 teams as far as favorites. You got the Mariners and the Twins at 30-1 after those that group of three.
Huh. I don't know if I'd have them in the top 10. It's just a little bit lingering around from last year, I guess, maybe. Like, last year just seemed like anytime there was any sort of positive push, it was like, disappointment. Disappointment. It's just, yeah. Maybe it'll be better for me this year as a Jays fan to go into the season with zero expectations. And then I'll actually be pleased if they get back to the postseason or something like that.
You know what? Let me just say, and again, I'm not sure that there's the value there at 20-1, but if they were a little lower back, like, because I think that's the way most people feel, I can make an argument that the Blue Jays are poised, even without any big, massive additions, to be better this year. Because frankly, I don't think there's anywhere their bats could be worse. Now, you are missing Chapman in the lineup, and I know he didn't hit quite a bit last year, but he still hasn't signed anywhere.
He hasn't signed anywhere yet. Yeah.
I don't know what the weight is. I mean, Boris has, I think, 3 clients now. Bellinger signed with the Dodgers. He's got like an $80 million deal.
3 years, 80 mil. Yeah.
With opt-outs after year 1 and 2 if he plays well and he wants to go back to free agency. But I mean, Bo was pretty good, got hurt, then was so-so. Vlad has to be better. You got nothing from Manoah. He looks like a totally new guy. You got some young pitchers coming up to a staff that was already one of the best in the entire major league. So
need the bats, man. They need the bats.
Maybe they'll surprise some people. Yeah, there's no way they could hit as poorly as they did last year. That I guess is the is my theory on the Blue Jays. So if they can do better that way, they do have the pitching, and pitching is pretty damn important. I just have to laugh just before we move off of this.
Yeah.
So the Dodgers are minus 260, Braves plus 550, Astros 850. At the other end of the spectrum, the Oakland Athletics 325-1.
Oh.
The Colorado Rockies 275-1. And this is wild because I think this team was like 10-1 to win it all last year. The Chicago White Sox 275-1. The Nats 225, Pirates 150, Angels 150, the Royals 100-1. You've got 7 teams at odds of 100-1 or greater, and as I say, 4 teams more than 200-1. There is, I know people say, "Hey, there's been more different champions in the majors in the last 30 years than there has been in, these cap leagues." But it certainly seems like we're basically talking about a handful of teams that have the opportunity.
Starting to become tiered a little bit here, I think. Yeah. Spency 5 cents. He says Spencer Strider, NL Cy Young, plus 450, easy money. And Jake says, leave some Jays talk for me on Thursday. So, that's what we'll do. Because we do have a busy slate in the National Hockey League tonight, for sure. I'm going to whip you through the starting goalies, Huss, as you can bring up the board. And we've got lots to get to. I think this will be one of those days for a Nasty Chat parlay. Nasty Chatters, if you're watching on YouTube, just throw your ideas out there. Throw your picks for tonight out there. Jake will gather 3 of them up, throw them in. Here's what we got tonight. Florida Panthers at home against the Buffalo Sabres. Sergei Bobrovsky confirmed to start for Florida. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen at this point unconfirmed for the Sabres. It will be Samsonov versus Aiden Hill as the Golden Knights head into Toronto trying to return a favor. Toronto dropped on them in Vegas last week. Samuel Ersson will get the start for the Philadelphia Flyers. It'll be Vasilevsky between the pipes for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Samuel Montembeault for the Habs. Connor Ingram for the Coyotes. Alex Lyon is confirmed to start at home for the Detroit Red Wings, taking on the Washington Capitals. Capitals, of course, last night at home beating the Ottawa Senators 6-3. They head up to Detroit for that tilt. Charlie Lindgren listed as unconfirmed at this point. Winnipeg Jets tonight. Laurent Brossoit, Joel Hofer for the St. Louis Blues. Minnesota has confirmed Philip Gustafson will start tonight. At this point, Kochetkov is listed as likely for the Carolina Hurricanes. Corpus Salo will start for the Senators. UC Saros likely for the Nashville Predators. Markstrom is confirmed for the Calgary Flames tonight at home against that Kings team that dropped one here in Edmonton last night. Big save Dave in that last night for the Kings. Cam Talbot listed as unconfirmed to this point. Georgiev will start for Colorado. Ottinger, this will be an Ottinger game for sure. He's listed as likely right now, but he'll start that one. Tristan Jarry and Demko unconfirmed at this point. Mackenzie Blackwood likely for the San Jose Sharks. They're at home against the New Jersey Devils, where Nico Dawes is currently listed as an unconfirmed starter there. Huss, she's a busy one today. What's jumping off the page at you here?
Is she ever? By the way, just quickly, we'll get into an exclusive of our own.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the daily exclusives, and there's a lot of them today for over at CoolBet. But with all of these every Canadian team except the Oilers are in right now. Plus 120 for the Canadian teams to combine for 21 goals or more. Habs, Leafs, Sens, Jets, Flames, and Canucks. And then I don't mind this points from the point. Morrissey, Makar, and Quinn Hughes all record a point. It's plus 300. Morrissey's got 9 points in his last 4 games. He has been on, and the Jet power play is on fire. Remember I was talking about how good would this team be if they had a power play? We've now got like the best power play in the league over the past 2 weeks.
No big deal.
Which is nice because their 5-on-5 plays falling off, and that's why they've won 6 of their last 7. Although not looking.
WSC parlay coming up later on Winnipeg Sports Talk, eh?
Yeah, we'll actually I'll cook something up while we're doing this right now. Okay, a couple games that look to me right off the bat. I do like what Tampa's doing lately. They've won their last 2. Big win against New Jersey. They've 2-0 on this road trip right now. Going into Philly. Philly's been better on the road than they have been at home this year. And I really think that I got to think that what's happening with Philadelphia, like just all the uncertainty around the trade deadline, probably not a great thing for the Flyers. They've lost 4 of their last 5. They gave up 7 to Pittsburgh in their last game. So I think Tampa is a game that I look. The Golden Knights Leafs game is a stay away. Although now that I look at the odds, Leafs at minus 168 actually is not too bad. I mean, the Golden Knights aren't really getting any help back anytime soon. I mean, there's no Mark Stone, no Jack Eichel. They're just sort of hanging on right now. And the Leafs are on an absolute roll right now. So I actually probably would take the Leafs at minus 168, considering the situation. I'll tell you what, I know Nashville's won 5 in a row. And I know Ottawa, I just bitched about them at the start of the show.
You just said they were going to go on the suspended list.
They are. I'm not betting them.
Okay.
I'm not. Okay. I am not betting them. But
you scared me.
Remember this conversation. It would not at all surprise me if the Senators win this game tonight. The Preds have won 5 in a row. They come off that great road trip. It's that old first game at home, playing a team on the second night of a back-to-back. Like everything says Nashville. I'm not touching that game tonight because it wouldn't surprise me. I think Ottawa will be better. Like that's the one thing that Martin's been doing a good job at, is sort of snapping them into space. What about this LA Calgary game? Because Calgary right now is actually playing some pretty good hockey. I do not want them to win. I took the under on them and their total points at the All-Star break. But I have to admit, I've been very impressed with what Calgary's been doing lately. The Kings have been an inconsistent team, and I know they played pretty well last night. But what do you make of LA back in Calgary after playing last night in a game that certainly I think to them held much more importance than this one tonight?
I don't know. I think for me, I'm probably going to stay away from this one. The Kings did play well last night. Like Los Angeles looked pretty good for a good chunk of that hockey game last night. They had a lot of chances in last night's game. Mind you, Adrian Kempe did leave that game with, I think, what was a wrist injury. And I don't know if I haven't searched for an update yet today. But if he's not going tonight for the Kings, that might probably sway me a little bit. Like Calgary's won 3 in a row. 6-3 over Winnipeg, 3-2 over Boston, 6-2 over Edmonton. That's a pretty good stretch. Prior to that, though, they'd lost 3 in a row, and prior to that, they'd won 4. So, yeah. What is let me search. What's happening with Kempe? Do we see anything with Kempe? Probably nothing, because it would be an optional morning skate. You won't get any sort of update, I don't think.
Yeah, they won't be filling us in. Also, don't mind the Florida Panthers puck line.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. That's my cool bet hotline of the day from the Nielsen show today. I looked at it from a parlay perspective. Regulation lines like minus 140 something. If we're going to throw a little parlay in there, okay. I don't mind Florida even over on the 3.5 for the team total. But I did settle on puck line today against the Buffalo Sabres. Beat them 4-0 a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I like that Florida play for sure. I mean, if we're building the parlay here, I definitely have time for Florida either puck line, reg, depending on what type of value we want. That's one for sure. And I like the Tampa play as well. Tampa's owned Philly for like the last 3 seasons, right? And I know Philly's a little bit different this year. I get it. But I do like Tampa with Vasilevsky tonight. That's another one that I could certainly get behind.
Well, you know what? Why don't we do Florida and reg?
Okay.
And why don't we do Tampa money line?
Okay. And then what?
So we've got those two games in, and then we need to kind of lock down on another one. Geez, this Dallas Colorado game. Who did you say the starters were? We're going to see Ottinger.
It'll be Ottinger and it'll be the big Georgiev.
Colorado's minus 140 in this game. Dallas is plus 1.
Dallas played last night with Wedgwood, right? So that's why Ottinger's going to go tonight.
They did, and
that was in Dallas.
Part of me thinks we were sort of looking ahead to the next game. Rod Z just has a great, and this is a bizarre stat, and again, a Rod Z special. Canucks 8-0 after going to overtime.
I was gonna bring that game up with you. I mean, that's one of the other games that sort of pops out tonight. Just Penguins and Canucks. Canucks. How much do you think that win over Boston gets them back on track after some struggles prior to? Like, if it does, then I don't mind them in this. But what's the number? 160, 161.
161. I'll be honest, I like Vancouver here. I mean, Pittsburgh has been, they've been so up and down right now. They don't have Jake Gensel. And if they're giving up 6 to Philly, what might Vancouver do at home? I'm with you. I think the Canucks get a huge boost. I think they just feel like and the way they won that game, like I know you were probably paying attention to the Battle of Alberta, or I guess it was an early game. It kind of led into it, but Vancouver played their asses off in the third period to come back from a 2-0 deficit. They scored with the empty net, and then they put it away in overtime. And you know what? I mean, Vancouver, let's face it, has just been, they're in another tier to me than the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are fighting for their lives. Are you guys getting Pittsburgh over the next little bit? Are they starting in Vancouver?
They get Pittsburgh. They get Pittsburgh like twice over the next 2 weeks, including this weekend.
Yeah, Saturday night probably.
Sunday night, 7:00, and then they go on. After that, so they're at home against St. Louis on Wednesday. Then a quick afternoon game in Seattle on Saturday. Back home to play the Penguins on Sunday night, and then a road trip that takes them to Boston, Columbus, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh. So, and that next weekend, the 9th and 10th, it's the Oilers playing at 10:30 and 11:30 in Buffalo and Pittsburgh at the end of that road trip. So weird start times. But yeah, we'll see the Penguins twice here over the next little while.
10:30, 11:30 a.m.?
Yeah, our time. So 12:30 and 1 o'clock out east.
Oh, yeah. Tommy Gazzola with the breakfast with Tommy.
Tommy's got that pregame starting at 9 o'clock on Saturday the 9th. That's quite
breakfast
something.
With Tommy. It's the dream of most single women in Alberta. You know?
Plus 391. Tampa on the money line. Florida in reg at minus 143. Canucks at minus 161. Are we okay with just Panthers and reg there, or do you want to go puck line?
Well, let's see.
It's going to bump the number up quite a bit, I think. I don't want to be the greedy one that just blew the parlay for us, though.
I mean, my initial pick was the puck line, to be honest.
And it's my play of the day today, so, I mean, we're on it.
You have to think of this as, if they're going to win in regulation, those 1-goal games, you'll often have, like the money line, we can have a tie game and you can win it in overtime and you win the bet. The regulation, you have to be ahead. And if that's the case, more often than not, you've got a pulled goalie.
Got a shot at the empty net,
scoring that. So listen, I don't mind taking the puck line. As I say, I kind of offered that one out right down. And if we do, we get it over 5-1. So we'll
before the boost
504 right now. So we might get it to 550, 560 by the time
that moves it from 391 up to 504. So it's a pretty big jump for a game that we both like. So let's do it. Let's go. Canucks money line at home minus 161. Panthers puck line at home plus 109. And then Tampa on the road against the Philadelphia Flyers at minus 128. That'll be plus 504. I know Jake and Pat are both over there in the nasty chat, boys. Let us know if you need to run that back for you a little bit. I'm curious. Jets Blues, obviously you're going to be setting this up on Winnipeg Sports Talk today, but tell me a little bit about this one tonight. What are you expecting?
Well, I mean, the Jets have owned the Blues this year. I mean, they have really they thumped them earlier this year a couple of times. And I'm trying to think of whether that was before Berube got fired or not. I think they did play them as well once after that. It's going to be LB and Hofer. Brossoit was brilliant in his last start. So, I mean, there's absolutely no issue. I know a lot of people go, oh, geez, no Hellebuck. Brossoit's numbers are Hellebuckian this year when he's been in, although he just isn't playing anywhere near as much as Connor does right now. And, the Jets, I think, are feeling pretty good about where they're at, although they do, as I mentioned, need to get back to being a little bit better 5-on-5. But the power play is absolutely rolling right now. The commissioner's in the house tonight. There'll be lots of there's lots going on in and around the team. But I think at the end of the day, what has kind of really been happening with the Jets is, they move past performances and they find ways to win. So I like the Jets tonight. I mean, usually, what's that number? Minus 189 or so. Let me just see here. Yeah, minus 189 on the money line. I'll probably dig into a couple of the other, we'll prop in definitely a Josh Morrissey point or two. We'll throw in a total, and maybe look to keep the St. Louis total. St. Louis under, where's the totals for the Blues?
Yeah, what's Blues under 2.5?
Well, minus 136. Again, the Jets are the number one team in goals against in the league. So, I mean, they have done that. And to be honest, they've gotten away from that a little bit. Like Blues over 2.5 is plus 107. And what about power play goals? Over 1.5 plus 148. That might not be a bad play because the Blues haven't been very good at 5-on-5, but they actually have been scoring on the rush and on the power play right now. So we'll maybe throw I'll think about throwing that in overall, but the look right now of the team is pretty good. We assume I'll have to check in with Remus just before we go live, assuming Sean Monahan's going to be back in. He missed the last game due to illness. And when he went in on that line with Nikolai Ehlers and Alex Iafallo, Perfetti got moved down to the fourth line on Friday against Chicago. Ehlers completely took over that game. I don't know if you saw the 2 goals he scored, but he'd been very quiet for about 10 games. He reminded everybody.
I know you were talking about him being due for sure. What else is coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk today, buddy?
Well, we've got this wild conversation with Andy Strickland. I mean, we started off talking about the Blues in this game tonight, but we very quickly moved on to, well, first of all, he was asking me about, what's happening in Winnipeg. There's been talk about the tickets, the move that they need to do to get back their season ticket base. So I was sort of on the hot seat from him. And then we went back and got into the Arizona situation. He had some pretty good insight into some potential moves in and around the deadline. Mike McIntyre is going to join us. And we're getting ready for Seabears season here as well. They just signed a new player, a guy that was a 2-time MVP for the Bandits. So we'll have that towards the end of the program as well. And we'll lean into the WSTers for a little WST parlay as well, which I will put up. That'll be online a little bit later on. But let's get back in the win column with this partner parlay. Lightning, Canucks, Panthers, all very good teams. I like the ones that we've chosen with them. And I'm not worried about the fact that we're jumping on the puck line in Florida because they've been pretty good with that all year long.
Tomorrow, we will have a golf episode for you. Pat Gregoire will pop by and join us for that bad boy. We'll get into some Briar predictions on Thursday as well as the foremost leader in Canadian curling betting. Hustler right here on the Lock Shop. Looking forward to that one.
And just speaking of golf, and I'm not sure whether this is already up or not, but I did mention to Pat, the
Anthony Kim stuff.
We talked about, okay, he's at plus 125. I don't think anyone expects him to win this tournament, but I'm hoping we can get a couple of props for Kim, like top 10, maybe top 20. Can he compete with these guys after not playing a competitive round? That's not just a hustling cash money game on one of the courses he's been hanging out with. hang with some of these top guys on the Live Tour. So I'll be interested to see what those numbers are, but we'll talk a little Live Jeddah and the Cognizant Classic tomorrow, as well as get into what will certainly be a quieter night in the NHL.
All right, buddy. We'll talk tomorrow. Have a good show.
Take it easy.
There you go. That is us, and it is a quiet night in the NHL tomorrow. Just 2 games, but one of them, Edmonton, their St. Louis Blues. Hustle coming off of a game in which St. Louis just played Winnipeg tonight. So he'll know a little bit more about the Blues tomorrow on the Lock Shop, which should be good. That should help us set things up a little bit as well. Looks like the Nasty Chat has their parlay locked in or close to it. A little bit back and forth still there. They're going to go Tkachuk. They're going to roll Tkachuk. So it's going to be Jack Hughes goal, Nyquist point, and Tkachuk 2+ points tonight, even though Steinbach, the nemesis, didn't mind Marner in there, but they're going to roll with Tkachuk. And I think Northside Sandwich has the best play on it. Panthers should score more against Buffalo than the Leafs versus the Golden Knights tonight. As for exclusives, make sure probably during 2 guys and a goalie, we will get Lock Shop Partner Parlay is already up. That was real quick. And a nice boost. We had it at 505. It's 575. Cha-ching. Sprinkle City. Florida Panthers -1.5, Tampa Bay Lightning and the Canucks both to win, plus 575 in the game tonight. I'm looking at it right over here. I had it on the right side of the screen, plus 504 all the way up to plus 575. You'll find the Nasty Chat parlay underneath that Lock Shop Partner Parlay banner as well. And as always, there's a bunch of cool bet exclusives in there, especially with a busy night in the National Hockey League. Let me quickly run you through these. We got 2 guys and a goalie coming up here at noon on Edmonton Sports Talk today with myself, Joaquin Gage, and Matt Cassian. We'll be diving into the Oilers game, obviously, last night. I want to get Cass's thoughts on this Rempe kid fighting his way into the National Hockey League here, what he thinks of him as a fighter, what he thinks of the strategy to become a National Hockey Leaguer here in 2024. We'll certainly get into that. Fun game today we're going to play actually on 2 guys and a goalie. Yet the boys don't know, but I was doing a little bit of extra prep today. Patty Kane, I saw a bunch of people, I don't know if it was on TSN or on social or ESPN or whatever, they're talking about Pat Kane. Is he the greatest American hockey player ever? So I'm going to play a game today called Name the American Hockey Player, and it's a little trivia game just about American hockey players, which should be a lot of fun. We'll do that a little bit later on in 2 guys today. And I'm sure there'll be some sort of F1 fantasy debate between Cass and Gager as well, running rivalry over there. As far as the exclusives today goes, we'll get to the multi-sports in a second. Cool Bet NHL Daily exclusive. Someone roars, Canada scores. Huss brought that up. It's plus 120. You're going to need 21 goals from the Habs, Leafs, Sens, Jets, Flames, Canucks combined tonight. And that's an interesting number. I'll dive into that one a little bit more. Points from the point, Morrissey, McCarr, and Quinn Hughes, big boys, 3-1. The Blue Nosers, McKinnon with a goal, Crosby with an assist, plus 325. Good luck, Tkachuk. Matthew Tkachuk with a goal, Brady Tkachuk with a point, plus 375. The Stars and Snipes tonight, Austin Matthews, Kyle Connor. Don't mind that one, plus 425. That might be my favorite one on the board so far. Shots. Marner, Ehlers, and JT Miller all to record 3+ tonight, plus 550. Ovechkin and Sid both to score tonight, plus 550. And how sweet it is. Willie Nylander, Petey, both to record 2+ points, plus 625. As for some multi-sport exclusives as well, Brunson, 2+ 3-pointers. Austin Matthews, 4 shots on goal. Dylan Brooks with a steal, plus 250. The helping hands, that's Rantanen and Hughes, both to record assist. Jason Tatum in the association, #Association City, plus 350. Canadian National Treasures, SGA, to record 30+ points. Sidney Crosby, 2 points. That's at 4-1. And Eurostars, the Greek Freak and Doncic, both to record 30 points. And the Cooch to score a goal tonight as well. That's plus 525. Thunder play the Rockets tonight. I like that SGA number for sure. That's really good. All right, that's going to do it for the Lock Shop today. Pat will join us tomorrow here as we'll obviously set up a lot on the Oilers and Blues. We'll definitely get into that as they wrap up a 5-game homestand. But the Cognizant Classic, Rory McIlroy's tournament to lose, and how does that usually work out? We just said the same thing about Tony Finau down in Mexico. So lots to get to tomorrow on the Lock Shop. We're recapping a busy slate tonight, obviously, in the National Hockey League as well. Tell your friends about Edmonton Sports Talk. Tell your friends about the Lock Shop as well. And they can pop in and have some fun with what we think is one of the most unique sports betting communities in the entire country here at the Nasty Chat and the Log Shop, and everybody texting in and listening online. Obviously, we appreciate it. Thank you very much for joining us today. Good luck tonight, and we will talk to you tomorrow on the Log Shop.